Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, the podcast where we open up the space to have conversations about trends and campaigns at the intersection of marketing, advertising, and impact.
Hi, I'm Alana Figueroa.
Hey, I'm Steph Belsky.
We're social impact strategists, colleagues, and friends who are on a mission to revolutionize the industry we love.
Listen, today there's a lot of virtue signaling, greenwashing, cause washing, or companies saying nothing out of fear of getting it wrong.
Whether it's a moment or a movement, it still has to be real. It has to be authentic and aligned with the brand, not just performative. It's about the action being taken that goes along with the messaging.
So we're here to highlight who's doing it well, what could be better, and how companies can stop leaving money and the potential for real social change on the table.
Our guest today on Creative Conversations is Kian Bakhtiari. Kian, before we get into it and introduce you officially, we would love to ask you, why do you do what you do without actually telling us what you do in your answer? What's your why?
Thank you. Well, firstly, thank you, Alana and Steph. Delighted to be joining you. It's a great question. Why do I do what I do? I think for me, the most important thing is the same thing that's preserved society and culture, which is our ability to communicate, but also our ability to understand. So to communicate, to understand.
Yeah.
And then the third, I would say, is to imagine a future that might be different to the current reality.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh.
Please, let's imagine that future.
Ooh, I just got chills. That's good
Here
stuff.
for it.
All right. Well, now, Kian, we're going to share what it is that you actually do. So, Kian Bakhtiari is the founder of The People. He's listed as one of the top 50 future leaders by the Financial Times and is the author of the award-winning book, Marketing for Social Change. He regularly writes for Forbes CMO Network and is deeply passionate about using the power of creativity and imagination for good.
Our people.
Yes.
Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, Kian. We're so excited to have you on today.
Delighted to be joining you both.
So
we'll get to know you a little bit better.
Yes. So the first question, Kian, that we always ask our guests is, what first drew you to doing impact work?
Yeah, so for me, in terms of impact, I would say I've been inspired by impact probably before I could remember it or before I knew that was the term to describe it. And I think part of, like everyone else, a huge part of your upbringing and your personal lived experience often ends up informing your practice and how you show up in the world. So for me personally, I was born in Iran. I grew up in Iran, and then I moved to the UK as a kid. And for me, I always remember that justice was a big driver for me, as it has been for me growing up with my family. And a big part of that was my personal experience, that I realized very early on that every child in the world has talent and ability, but not everyone gets the same opportunity to shine. And that for me has been a big driver of how do you share opportunities and how do you make sure, not just for that individual, but for society as a whole, we make sure that everyone can contribute and add value to the best of their abilities.
Yes. Oh, I wanted to ask, do you still have family in Iran?
Yes. So I have family both in Iran and also across the world. And I think that's probably the other lens of, and I'm sure it's the same in America and for many other people, being able to kind of live and communicate across multiple cultures, I think that for me has been really important in terms of understanding people, but also being able to communicate and focus on what unites people. And often, to everyone's surprise, what unites us is much bigger and stronger than what divides us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
beautiful.
And I hope everyone is safe and stays safe, and we are thinking of them and of you, and this is a tough time, to say the least. Well,
Yeah. You maybe spoke to this a little bit in speaking to justice and making sure everyone has a voice, but curious what issue area or multiple, you can have as many as you want, we will not limit you, issue areas you're personally most passionate about, even though you may work across many. What lights your fire?
Yeah, I'm interested in a variety of topics. I think one that at the moment is very front and central for me is really understanding and kind of interpreting culture. I really mean that in the broadest sense.
Yeah.
So I don't mean just sometimes when people talk about culture, they talk about art or music. I mean humans and society.
Yeah.
Our imprint is within our culture.
Yeah.
So trying to understand what are the values, what are the symbols of culture. So for me, that's has always fascinated me. And often identity is connected to that because every human being has multiple identities. It's easy to label people, but I'm sure it's the same for both of you, Alana and Steph. We're different people in different situations and contexts. So understanding the fluidity of identity alongside how we live in a polyculture, where there are numerous different cultures, both in terms of cultures that we're born into, but also cultures that we identify with based on our ideas and values. And I'm sure in your podcast and in your community, that in itself is a culture and community. The other two areas I would say is I'm deeply passionate about social impact and specifically focused on giving young people a voice. I think we live in a world where most of the world's leaders are not representative of the world. We live in a very young and diverse world, but leadership, both in terms of politics and business, is not representative of that. So a lot of the work I do is about how do you give the platform and the opportunity for young people to shape their own future.
Yes.
Very cool. I love that. Was there one more? I feel like you said maybe there was one more. Sorry, I was lost.
I was too.
Yeah. I would say the last one is probably more on the commercial side. It's kind of helping brands and businesses to future-proof because, again, I think a lot of companies are still very focused on optimizing 20th century models.
Yeah.
And it's just helping them understand the world is moving at a really fast pace.
Yeah.
And how can you shift ways of working, ways of seeing, and ways of collaborating that is ready for the 21st century.
Yeah. And getting ahead of it and not being the late adopter.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And speaking of helping brands and getting them into the next generation and getting voices heard by the young people, what is an impactful project that you've worked on that you are super proud of?
Ooh, that's a really tough question.
You've done so much good stuff. You've done such good stuff.
Thank you. It's also asking like, who's your favorite child? I think it's an unfair question, but I will do my best.
Has a favorite. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'll do my best. For me, it's about phases in my career. at different phases, there's been work that I'm really proud of. So when we first set up the people, we really wanted to kind of start with a big, bold statement. And one of our first pieces of work was actually for United Nations Water, and it was for a very less known event and day, which was World Toilet Day. And the reality is there are billion, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a billion people without access
I
to
believe that.
toilets. So I don't know the latest number. At the time,
Yeah.
our campaign was all about raising awareness. So we did this really interesting campaign, which we showed that more people die from lack of access to toilets than war. In fact, 10 times more people. So it kind of brought this, it's this distant thing. If you live in a developed country, you don't even think about not having access to toilets. And suddenly I think what I was interested and proud about that is reframing it and communicating it in a way that people understand. So not only did that campaign raise awareness, it also raised funds
Amazing.
to build toilets.
Amazing.
So that for me is inspiring. Since we launched in 2018, we've done a lot of work supporting young people. So we've mentored over 300 young people, and many of them have ended up finding jobs in the creative industries. And that's to do with them, their talents, their abilities, but to play a small role in someone's future trajectory, I think is a real honor and privilege. So I'm really proud of that, even though that's not like project-based work. The other piece,
but you're spreading the ripples out into the
exactly.
world, and then your knowledge and your values get shared, and then that gets shared out in the world, and so you get to reach exponentially in all these different directions through those 300 people. That's amazing.
I'd be super proud of
And
that.
that's
too.
a lot of people to have mentored in 7 years. So
thank you. And I should add that not me personally. We've been blessed enough to have a network of professionals that have been very generous with their time and expertise. And especially during the pandemic, that was kind of a period where young people either graduating or looking to get into employment weren't sure how to navigate that. And then probably the third, I would say, is we've done a lot of work around thinking about new governance structures and how do you bring young people's voices into business, not in a tokenistic way, but into the boardroom. So one of the pieces we're really proud of is we set up a global youth advisory board for a number of brands, including Pentland brands. And what that meant was the voices and the recommendations of young people from across the world. So everywhere from India to China to Vietnam were being put on the agenda of leadership teams and making a meaningful impact. So that for me is really inspiring because it's a new way of doing things, which isn't just top down, it's collaborative and co-creating the future with the future.
That's awesome. So smart and ties together so many of the values that you were just speaking about of the areas that you were passionate about as well.
Exactly. That's so
I love
good.
that. Switching gears a little bit, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
It can be professional, it can be personal, whatever comes up for you.
Yeah. It's a great question. I think the challenge is equally connected to the question of what we're most proud of, because the way we work at the People is all about being collaborative and co-creating between companies, businesses, young people, and the communities. And it's a different model to the traditional top-down approach. So naturally, we're not a charity, we're a business. So naturally, from a commercial perspective, is making sure the work we're doing is true, representative, and adding value to the communities we're collaborating with and co-creating with, while at the same time commercially viable and has business outcomes for companies. And I would say there are entities that do one or the other. So they might be fully business orientative but it can be quite extractive or
Yeah.
top down.
Mm-hmm.
And there are organizations that are all about supporting communities. Trying to translate and be the bridge between these two worlds
Mm-hmm.
can be a challenging
To
task.
say the
Yeah.
least.
But I think that's where the growth and
Yeah.
impact comes from, is how do you bring worlds that are often not in conversation or connected, or as the title of this podcast is, missed opportunities for good.
Yeah.
I actually think that happens when worlds can come together and connect. So a lot of the work we do is based on that. In a more practical sense, I would say not a lot, but companies, given the current circumstances, it can be natural to kind of focus on survival
Mm-hmm.
and delivering for
Yeah.
today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the challenges we're working on is helping them see how to create a vision for
Right.
tomorrow and a more long-term
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that, and especially in building these multi-generational advisory boards and things like that, how receptive have you found these companies once they're actually implementing them? Do you still tend to have to do a lot of hand-holding
Great question.
along the way, or do they truly embrace it from the beginning and really, accept the additional feedback? And is there like a handoff, or do you really have to like stay uber involved, reminding them about the value and why we're doing this and all of that, as the program, I guess you could even call it, but like as that new way of working builds?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Alana. I think in a weird way, a bit of both. So there's the need. I think one thing we've learned is you need leadership buy-in
Of
for
course.
a program like that.
Yeah.
Any kind of transformational program,
Yeah.
change program needs to have buy-in from the top,
Yeah.
or it's really hard and messy to kind of get things moving. So a big part of that is leadership buy-in, kind of stakeholder buy-in, and then moving beyond that, like us doing this, we've learned a lot from the process. So some things have worked really well, some things haven't. And actually, we're in the process of creating an open source toolkit
Cool.
to actually make that publicly available so that
Amazing.
other organizations, other companies can benefit from that in a way of both taking the positive learnings,
Yeah.
but also documenting the things that were a struggle or didn't work. And again, I think that's a different way to approach things than the traditional business model, which is like private.
Yeah.
We don't share our learnings with other organizations. And then I would say one of the big learnings is kind of you start small.
Yeah.
Because if you try to kind of transform everything at the same time, it's hard to build momentum. Whereas if you kind of build really small, you get one recommendation, one change under your belt, that builds momentum, it builds confidence, but it also builds belief.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
Love that. And thinking about who you all work with, and I'm sure that you have some different parameters and things that you think about when you're bringing on these different brands. And who is your ideal client, or what would an ideal project or collaboration be for the people?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I wish I had the magic answer to that. I think it really depends, and I would say more than strict criteria, I would say it's almost a mindset.
Beautiful.
And the way I would describe it is a lot of the work we do is it's exploratory. So there's work that is confirmation. So we want to know, like we've got option in A and B, which route do we go to? Which is very different to we're trying to figure out a new trajectory for the business. What is the future of this industry or this category? And exploring that, because no one has the answer.
Yeah.
And I would say the way we explore that isn't we don't look at a kind of magic kind of bowl and kind of predict. A lot of our work is to do with seeing emerging signals within culture, within youth culture, and help them to see a trajectory of where the future's heading and where culture is heading and what are the implications for their business. The parts that excite me are twofold. One is really, we all know this, but legacy businesses and legacy companies that have been really successful, what got them here isn't going to get them to the next phase. So helping them to figure out how do you adapt to new markets, new conditions, and also sometimes new audiences.
Not even sometimes.
And then the other
hopefully
part,
hopefully a lot.
oftentimes, often, yeah. And then the other part, which has been more and more, is also within the workplace. So as organizations bring on and have need to attract and retain a new generation, like Lana mentioned, like multi-generation, we now have 5 generations in the workplace.
Yeah.
How do you make sure you kind of harness the power of that diversity and different experiences in the workplace in a way that's additive and complementary? So that's the other piece we're doing, is exploring the world of work from the perspective of future leaders, but also people who will be the majority of the workplace.
That's so smart. I mean, something that Alana and I talk about on the podcast all the time is employee engagement, right? And how that can either be the missing piece of a campaign that could take it to the next level, or it's just an aside and nobody thinks about it. And so the fact that the people are really keeping that at the forefront and not just thinking about how it works in a campaign, but how it works for work, for bringing these future leaders into a place of empowered leadership and knowing that they belong in these rooms, and how to, I don't want to say groom them, but like mentor them. And, you know, as you were talking about with your mentorship program, like Alana said earlier, you know, the ripple of what's coming out of the people is so much more than this brand work that you're doing. And it's really, it's powerful stuff, Kian. It's very exciting to see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steph.
Are there any particular industries that you're most drawn to or you find the most interesting in this evolution?
Yeah, we've tend to find ourselves a lot of, and I think this is reflective of where does change happen first. So it tends to be more consumer facing organizations and brands that need to change, adapt to the changing needs of consumers. So we've done a lot of work around FMCG brands, food and beverage brands, fashion and lifestyle, because these are categories where they have to kind of be switched on and know what's coming next. And as you said earlier, not just be aware of it, but be slightly ahead of the curve compared to competitors.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's so interesting. Speaking of brands that have fully flipped for their models based on the changes, my husband pointed out the other day that the pistachio milk brand that we've been buying, because yes, we're those bougie people, the brand itself, which sells a range of nut milks now, used to be a dairy brand. And it literally says on the carton that they had legacy farm of, you know, dairy brand, whatever, and realized that that was not the way path forward.
Wow.
And fully flipped their business to only be alternatives. And I was like, that's super fascinating. I didn't know the brand previous to that. I was never the biggest dairy consumer anyways, but to see that instead of starting as a brand new company, it was a company that had just internally flipped that switch. Anyways,
no,
so
that's
climate change is real.
No, it's, firstly, I think I need to buy myself some pistachio milk. That's my first action.
My husband's obsessed. I could send you the link. It's a very clean brand. There's like 2 ingredients. Maybe they sell it there. I don't know.
It sounds delicious as well. So
yeah.
And I think to that point is the need to kind of self-disrupt. And it's a really scary thought, even if we think for ourselves, like in our careers, at some point you build up experience, you build up expertise.
Yeah.
But then to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go into something completely new that's outside of that zone of comfort. So whether that's dairy or whether that's a new job or a new kind of area to explore, that it's really scary because you have to let go of everything that you've perceived to have learned and your kind of identity, which is attached to it.
I can confirm this is true. Fact. Fact.
Well, and talk about like the transparency of the brand too for a second, right? Like how cool that they didn't just say, "Oh, we're a new company." They're saying, "Look, we understand that times are changing and we're changing too." Like I love that so much.
I really should look on their website because it's really just like a sentence on the side of the carton, but it really piqued my interest.
But they could have hit it and they didn't. And that's fantastic.
Totally.
Love it.
And he actually read it. Like there's enough minimal, right? Think about packaging. And now I'm really derailed. But like you think about packaging of so many products, right? And how many products have so much information, so much irrelevant information, lists of ingredients that you can't even pronounce, all the things. And so we just disregard 95% of what it says on the packaging. So in such a simple carton to have even bothered to read that much and literally taking it out and pouring it is like, it actually accomplished something. Like it's, anyhow, for folks who are looking to incorporate more social impact into their brand or into their marketing or figure out how to use their voice and their creativity as a force for good, is there one piece of advice or anything that you would want to share with them to help them on their journey?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because like I think you mentioned it in your intro, but for a lot of people who want to do good, one, it can be quite overwhelming of where do you start? And often when there's so much things that you need to figure out, you can often end up doing nothing.
Yep.
It's kind of like the analogy I would use is kind of, you might log into Netflix and it's like, I want to watch a movie, but there's so many movies that you actually don't end up watching anything because you're paralyzed by the number of options.
Yes. You just watch trailers all night.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh, it's midnight and I'm not going to even have time to watch anything. So I do think there is something about starting small and beginning with what's one thing I can do today to start, because otherwise it becomes really overwhelming. The other thing I would say, and something kind of that I start my book on, is there's a lot of work and there's a lot of publications which focus on finding your values, your mission. But I think the way I would frame it is sometimes it's viewed as, oh, we need to create something. So we need to create our mission. We need to create our values. We need to create something that we stand for. And I think it's actually the other way around. It's kind of discovering it based on your existing behaviors, based on how employees see you, based on how customers see you. So focusing on the reality of how you're viewed rather than this kind of made up mission statement or value statement.
Oh, Kian.
Not just about the aspirational goal of who you want to be, but looking first at who you actually are and how you're perceived.
Well, and preaching to the choir. I mean, in my social impact agency, we have a 3-part framework. And the first piece of work we always do with the client is story ownership. And that is exactly it. Because until you get that concrete foundation, you can't figure out the aligned partnerships. You can't do the creative expressions of the work that the people do. And, it's until that is just super solid, everything is going to come off as inauthentic. everything is going to come off as performative. And so the fact that you stay true and rooted in that is, I mean, everyone needs to be doing that exact same thing. So kudos, well done. So, all right. Well, we could talk to you all day because this is just lovely. And before we jump into the campaign that you've brought us, Kian, which we're very excited to jump in, let's quickly review our criteria, both for you and for our listeners. So the first thing we always look at is alignment.
Next is partnerships,
call to action and transparency,
engagement,
and lastly, optimization and amplification.
So with that, if you can please tell us a little bit about the campaign you brought us today, which is super interesting and exciting. And if you can throw in your opinion already on what you think they're doing well or not, but really just give us a quick summary of the creative so that if anyone hasn't seen it yet, they kind of have an idea of what we're talking about. And then we'll obviously include a link to the campaign in the show notes so they can watch it on their own after they listen to the episode or pause and watch it and fully understand.
Yeah, and I should start by saying this campaign, I have no involvement in this campaign. I saw it last year. I really loved it. And it's when you ask me what's kind of a campaign that you want to spotlight, I think it speaks to a lot of the criteria that you mentioned. So the campaign's by Vaseline and it's called Vaseline Verified. So what the brand did, I believe with their agency, which I think is Ogilvy on this, I'll double check on that. But what they did, which was really genius, is they essentially crowdsourced ideas and submissions of what Vaseline is used for, because already what they realized was, going back to what we were saying of what you said, Steph, of perception and your existing story, they realized that across social media, people were using Vaseline for a variety of different use cases outside of kind of the conventional. And so they created this campaign where they verified the ones that actually worked with scientists. And the campaign's called Vaseline Verified.
Love it. Love it. I mean, this is so smart, right? Because brands will either just not jump on these trends or they'll just write it out and be like, well, I guess somebody else is telling our story for us. And here they were so proactive in not just, getting ahead of it, but also in directly speaking to the culture and to the whole like verified, right? Like everybody wants to feel validated. Everybody wants to feel, and especially, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Kian, but younger people kind of need that and they crave that a little bit more. And so being able to tap into this cultural moment of verification and saying like, they're not saying, oh, that's terrible, don't do that with our product. They're saying, okay, that could be harmful, so that is not Vaseline approved. But no, they flipped it and they said, let's find the ones that we really, really love and let's spotlight those and showcase those with a verification badge. I mean, it's just, it's so good.
And letting your audience do the work for you, right? I remember as a kid, maybe not young kid, a young adult, reading Real Simple magazine. I guess I was an old woman as a young adult. But they would always have this section that was new uses for existing products. And so it's like Vaseline really taking that to the nth degree. Yeah. And like, instead of them having to come up with the new uses themselves, they went to their audience who's already doing this. And now they get to showcase all those things. And they're not running crisis management response like Tide Pods on the back end, where kids are doing some stupid Tide Pod challenge or whatever, flavor of the month, dumb thing kids did with the product. And then the brands don't really do anything other than go, oh, that wasn't what it was meant to. Don't do that. so to your point, Steph, of being able to flip it on its head, I think is so cool. And then I don't know if it was the natural response for these creators to go back out there and be like, I'm verified, this is so cool, they actually tested my product, or if they actually paid those people to say that. But either way, the validation to be able to go back and even have those conversations. I mean, I hope, for goodness sake, they paid them, because ultimately that becomes an ad for them, right? So hopefully they're giving them something other than more Vaseline. But like utilizing that space in a completely different way than and finding those true people who are already speaking to the value of your product, and not, paying somebody who doesn't even use your product to film something that's not even realistic. There's a really cool authenticity element to it of, searching the web and pulling those voices out. And then the fact that they had real scientists doing this on the back end is kind of hilarious. There's an article on Unilever's site interviewing the scientist of what it was like to test. I don't know. I feel like after the Super Bowl, I'm very into these behind the scenes videos, how things happened. Like the walking plants. I mean, they're the new Katy Perry shark, but it's the same production team behind it. But I think it's interesting. Like, I wonder how much they promoted those behind the scenes stories too, because it is kind of fascinating. No scientist hawking Vaseline thinks they're going to be sitting in there putting on makeup and applying it and see what happens, or whatever other weird things. I mean, that's like probably the most mundane of them, but whatever other things they got to test, like what a funny day for a scientist. I don't know.
And just to confirm on that, Alana, so that it was real people that were the walking plants.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Because, okay, I read the behind the scenes article, and they only have like 7.5 minutes to get on the field and 6 minutes to get off. And they're also only allowed, because it's a real turf, not a fake turf field, you're only allowed X number of carts out of materials in the middle of the game. So they could only have like 25 rolling carts, because otherwise it damages the field too much, whatever the number was. And so, because Bad Bunny wanted this look with the sugarcane fields and everything, and they were like, okay, we can't physically roll out those plants. So it's almost like 300, around 300 or 400 people wore almost 40-pound costumes. They had to be between like X height and X height. I also saw a thing about one of the guys who did it, like wrote something about how he flew in from Philadelphia to do it, and he submitted this like open casting call, and you had to be like able to lift X amount of height. And then like somebody submitted on Strava. Like there's so many like offshoot brand opportunities from this. It's kind of hilarious. But I feel like that was the biggest conversation afterwards, was like the fact that these were people in these plant costumes, but 300 something of them, like it's hilarious. There's videos of them just like walking to the stage from outside the stadium. It's pretty funny. And also the logistics of the power poles that were in it. Now Bad Bunny refused to wear a harness, and they were like having a heart attack, but because he didn't wear a harness, they could put the camera up there. I love behind the scenes. Again, I took us on a total side.
No, it's so good. It's so good.
Fascinating.
But it was a great routine. It was a great performance. So much storytelling, reaching new audiences, all of the things. Global understanding that the NFL is global now, like so many things.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Going back to Vaseline.
So Kian, would love to hear your thoughts on the spot, or multiple spots in this case. And also, where do we think the missed opportunity is here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely concur with what you've both shared already. I think I think the campaign was really strong is often, and we hear it all the time, like it's great for this brand to do it, but we're not like Nike, we're not this brand, and this is like a 150-year-old brand, and they've really kind of stepped it up and kind of thought, how do we communicate in this new age? And for me, it wasn't so much just the campaign or the message as much as the ways of working, which is kind of going past the traditional media and marketing campaign, which was kind of, and I think media has a big role to play, the format and the medium of the campaign, because historically with TV adverts, it's been a one-way broadcast communication. So essentially, the brand will create a campaign, they'll put in a TV ad, they've got millions of pounds or dollars, and people have no other choice but to listen to it. But I think with the advent of social media, the world has changed where what's essentially happened is a brand is not longer what companies say they are, it's what people tell their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that changes the power relations. And I think what Vaseline has done, which is great, is they've understood that actually, if we're going to be relevant in today's world, we can create and co create meaning with our audiences. And like you've both mentioned, that starts with the brand truth of how are people engaging with our product today.
Yeah. I love that co-creating meaning. Back to all your new ways of collaborating as well. And what a concept to co-create meaning and value and experiences and the future for a company. And kind of comes back to that same ethos.
And it's scary, right? Like I can imagine if you're in kind of the global brand world, it's scary to let go, where historically it's been like, we're in control of the assets, we're in control of the message.
Yeah.
But I think the truth is companies no longer are.
Yes.
So there's companies and brands that embrace that and kind of begin to kind of play in that space.
Yeah.
And there are those that want to kind of maintain that kind of control, or at least the illusion of control.
Yes. The illusion of control.
And that's what's the illusion of control as well. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's specifically interesting about this too, right? Is they're kind of head on saying like, or acknowledging that people have taken their brand truth and gone off with it to do what they wanted. And they're sitting there not making it a crisis communications solution, but saying, okay, we know there's misinformation out there. So we're going to do the hard work and show you where you should pay attention.
Yep.
I mean, how many other aspects of our lives would we love for somebody to come into the social media world and say, hi, friends? To be clear, all of these things are things you should be ignoring because these are not factually true. And these are the things that are factual. And pay attention over here.
Right. In an era.
But doing it in a fun, silly, co-created way where it makes it playful and engaging and interesting and people want to be a part of it versus shutting something down.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to add that there's, so much misinformation and fake news and all the AI and the rest of it, right? And so to be able to take a real product that is tangible, that was a gajillion years old, because everybody has a gajillion year old Vaseline tub somewhere in their home. And to use it in different ways and reinvent it. Yeah, it's all good stuff. My question is, in looking at our criteria and how we evaluate these types of campaigns, do we think, and I didn't do enough research, so maybe Sleuth, you did, but were any nonprofits, were they fast enough to get on top of this, like any sort of health and well-being nonprofits, or was there a cause component to this where obviously it's reinvention and innovation and all that other good stuff, but like, was there a health something or other? I don't know, help me out here. Could there have been somebody that jumped on this and said, okay, this is very interesting what's happening here, we want to be a part of this conversation actively? I guess I'm wondering, like, who could that nonprofit have been?
Yeah, and to my knowledge, I've not kind of looked deep enough, but I think this was more so kind of a brand led campaign. Where I think, to your point, Steph, the opportunity is the model itself lends itself really well for any organization, brand, or to your point, like a not for profit. How do they kind of approach things in the same way rather than starting with what they want to say? How can they start with how are people already communicating about this topic, about this theme, about this cause?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how viral happens, right? When you find an action that is repeatable, that is easy to jump on, and that people want to join. They want to be a part of it because of how fun and simple it is. And that's when you get these viral moments, as you know. But yeah, I think being able to see more of that happen with like these very traditional brands would be a lot of fun.
It would be interesting. I mean, it's not a direct nonprofit type, but it would be interesting if there was like I don't know that this would really make sense for them as a brand, but like if they went down that misinformation clarification sort of
Yes.
conversation a little bit deeper,
Yes.
so that it wasn't just a PR article on the back end that you have to go, to Unilever's website to actually learn about, but the follow-up to the case study of like, you all really liked this, but do you realize how much other misinformation is out there? Take another second to think about content consumption before you consume it. And maybe we solved your thought process for this product, but what about everything else you're consuming? And then the other thing I would say, just on an engagement standpoint, it would be interesting if they had done a follow-up after this, like all of these hacks were verified. And yes, they checked hundreds of ways that people were using it. But I wonder how many other uses that they didn't even realize people were doing, and doing an open call to continue the conversation, and like who else has something, another use for the campaign, and doing it, flipping it back to, I guess, a little bit more traditional, but putting that call out there. It's like, these have all been verified. Do you have one we missed?
Yes.
And carrying it on so it's not just a one-off, or focusing it, to your point, in the health and wellness space, like, it's amazing. We created this product for this thing. Now there's all these other things it can do. When it comes to solving this sort of a problem, have you been able to hack away into solving something, or utilizing it in a more direct ask of solving a certain type of a problem, or obviously not saving the world.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
what else could have been covered, right? Like, what else could Vaseline be used for?
Vaseline for climate change.
What are the other opportunities? What are the general missed opportunities there? I mean, I'm sure Vaseline for climate change is actually probably terrible, and the ingredients are probably horrible for the climate.
That's the joke. That's the joke. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
New hack. Come up with a new formula so that it's not detrimental to the environment.
Hey. No, spot on, Alana. I mean, yes. Yes, yes. More yes, all the yes. I think leaning into the misinformation would be super powerful, and them taking a stand, really, to say something without saying something, but also very much saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. I think we hit our missed opportunities for good here.
Cool. Well, Kian, where can we send people to learn more about your work? And is there anything else you would like to share? Do you want to do a little plug for your book also? I know it's been out for a while, but if you want to share that with our listeners or anything else, please do.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, a big thank you, Alana and Steph. I've really enjoyed the conversation and the space you've created, both for creativity and doing good. So, firstly, really loved joining you for conversation. In terms of where people can find out more, like you mentioned, my book, Marketing for Social Change, is out for anyone interested of how do you use the power of marketing to create a positive impact for society and business. And they can check out more about the work we do on our website.
Amazing. And we'll link to all of those in the show notes.
Absolutely. Well, Kian, thank you so much for joining us again, and for shining a light and learning from those who are doing it well and reducing the missed opportunities for good.
We want to hear from you. Please let us know, what campaigns are you seeing that are doing it well? Who would you like to see us interview? And what campaigns would you like us to audit?
Thank you so much to our listeners, to our Substack subscribers, to all followers, for joining us on our mission to revolutionize the industry that we love.
Missed Opportunities for Good is a production of Aligned for Impact and Love of Good.